Hey man, Hebron Baby Loud, come back at you with another edition of this Boomer's Logic. Just out here doing my 1-2 thing this morning, waiting for these stores to open so I can get to business. But I wanted to come and shoot this video for y'all, man, this morning and talk to y'all about how the black church has fallen into this state of depravity that it has, and how you can tell and see how they've given away to unclean spirits. And I'm going to use the scriptures to, to convey this or to confirm this. But before we get into this, man, if you haven't already, go to the channel, Boomer Logic, like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, tell a friend to tell a friend. Okay, so as I sit back and observe the black church, I see it has fallen into a complete and total utter tailspin. And the reason for this is because you continue to have these conversations with these unclean spirits. And when you have these conversations with the unclean spirits, you ultimately fall for what the unclean spirit is offering you. Instead of standing on the word of Yah, you always, what happens is when you do have a conversation with these unclean spirits, you're always manipulated and tricked into accepting what they're offering. Those unclean spirits are always going to offer you one of the three things. They're going to offer you the pride of life, the lust of the flesh, or the lust of the eye. And they always get you one of those three ways. Now, the first time we see these temptations being offered to a human was in the Garden of Eden with Eve. Those three things were offered to her by that unclean spirit who took on the form of a serpent. It was just simply an unclean spirit. Came to her and offered her these things. But how did she fall for it? How did this even occur? It's because she had a conversation with this spirit. And I'm going to give you two examples. I'm going to show you two examples of how not to deal with unclean spirits and how to deal with unclean spirits. And the first is what the black church has fallen into. The tempter came and tempted Eve. The serpent came and tempted Eve. And instead of rebuking the spirit and standing on what the word of Yah said, she entered into a conversation with this spirit. And see, this is what you black churches always talk about nowadays anyway. This is what you churches always talk about. Oh, we can have a conversation. This is why you'll never see homosexuality or this feminist movement infiltrate any Hebrew communities. You will not see one Hebrew Israelite, and I'm going to repeat that again. You will never, ever see any Hebrew community, since we're cults, you will never see any Hebrew communities that have been infiltrated by homosexuality or by this feminist movement. Never. It's because we stand on the word of Yah. Whatever that book says, that's our guide. We don't compromise. We don't sit down and have conversations with you. If you come to us and it's not in the word, we don't have any conversations. We look at you, we quote the scriptures, and we keep it pushing. We don't compromise. We don't sit and have conversations or debates. And this is how Eve got tricked. She fell into a conversation with this serpent. See, a conversation works like this. You speak, and then you be quiet and allow the other person to speak. And this is what happened to Eve. She had no business conversating with the serpent anyway. She was supposed to go get her husband and let her husband deal with the situation, but she didn't. That's number one. That was the first shortcoming. Number two is she misquoted the scriptures. She misquoted the commandment of Yah. So now it gives the serpent, the ability to slip in through that crack that she left in that door and to have this conversation with her and allowed him to get a foothold. You're never supposed to converse. And this is one of y'all, we can have a conversation about. No, what does the word of Yah say? The word of Yah tells you plain and clear. And I'm going to show you the example of a second situation where an individual was tempted by an unclean spirit. The unclean spirit came to him and he told the unclean spirit, hey, this is what the scripture says. So when Eve was tempted by this unclean spirit, she accepted what the unclean, I don't want to sound like a preacher. She accepted what the unclean spirit was offering. That fruit that was forbidden. Whatever that fruit might have been, it was forbidden to them. She took it, even though the word of Yah said, don't do this. Don't do this. She took it, she bit of it, and then she took it straight to her man. And he followed suit instead of standing on the word. And this is what's happening to your congregations, to your churches. This is what's happening to you socially, because your congregations, your churches are supposed to be the anchor for the community. It is supposed to guide and direct the moral compass of the community. But it's failing the community because it's sitting having conversations and compromising the word of Yah. Instead of standing on it, you're going in having these conversations with the LBGT. You're listening to them. You're finding ways to manipulate and to distort the scriptures in order to pacify somebody else. You're having conversations with unclean spirits. You're having conversations with the spirit of Jezebel. You're having a conversation with the homosexual spirit. You're conversing with them when you're supposed to stand on the word of Yah. So now Eve done took the apple to the man, just like these black women are accepting this fruit from the unclean spirit and taking it directly to the black congregations, the black pastors. Sitting down, having these conversations, and I hear it all the time. And this is where the unclean spirit got a foothold on y'all, was these black women were coming to y'all talking about homophobia. Oh, the black church is so homophobic. Why don't y'all accept gay members and just homophobic? And y'all sat and you listened and you conversed and you debated and you sat there and listened. And ultimately you gave way to this homosexual spirit, to the point where now you have full-blown homosexual congregations, where you have a black man in Atlanta, all of them going to hell. You got a black man in Atlanta who is married to a man, and that man is his first lady. It is disgusting. I sat and I was watching that, and I was like, man. And what's even funnier was these deviants were using the Bible, using the scriptures to mock other Christians who didn't accept it. I mean, they were twisting it, talking about David and Jonathan were lovers. Oh man, it just went on, and they were laughing demonically at other Christians who didn't believe this way. And it was an embarrassment. It made me mad because this is our history text, and you're taking it and doing abominable things like this with it. So once again, you allowed these women to carry this fruit into your congregations. You allowed Jezebel to come in and say, hey, let's have a conversation. You were swayed in regard to conversing with this spirit. And once you conversed with it, it made you compromise instead of standing on the word. So now we go to the second example of the unclean spirit coming to someone and trying to have that same conversation. And this is what Yeshua, or the one that you call Jesus, when he was tempted the same way that Eve was tempted by the serpent. He was tempted with the lust of the flesh, the pride of life, and the lust of the eye. He was tempted the same exact way. But every time the serpent said something to him, he didn't have a conversation with him. All he did was say, is it not written? He went straight to the word of Yah and he stood on it. Is it not written? There was no back and forth. I don't want to hear nothing else you got to say. Once you open your mouth and say something, I'm going to say, is it not written? And that's it. That's all we got to say. And this is why Hebrew Israelite community, because we're a cult, we are never infiltrated by these unclean spirits because we stand on the word, where y'all don't. You sit and you compromise and you have these constant conversations. And I love that phrase. We can have a conversation. I'm not ever going to conversate with an unclean spirit. The scriptures say test the spirit by the spirit. And what's the best way to test the spirit by the spirit? You listen to that spirit, and if it's not lining up with the word of Yah, you say, oh, no. That sounds good, but that's not the word. That's not the word. But see, y'all sit and listen, and if it sounds good, man, I might be able to make some money off of this. This could elevate my status. I can definitely grow off of this. I can get a bigger congregation. You give way to these seducing spirits. So now y'all so out of pocket. Your communities are so out of pocket because you're giving way to these unclean spirits to the point you got black women on the social media with this B4 movement shaving their heads, wishing death to black men. I mean, literally, I couldn't believe it. I was watching this black woman the other day, and she said, I hope black men start to get lynched in the streets. This is how far this demonic possession has taken y'all. And that's all it could be called. Because this spirit of Jezebel has landed on these black women, and these black women subtly infiltrated the church, because that's the first thing, that the first institution has to fall. First is the woman, because she can always deceive the man. She can always manipulate the man. So first is the woman, and then she carries it into the church, because in order to cause chaos in your community, the church has to fall. The church has to become so disruptive and out of order and out of sorts that ultimately it affects, it has to fall. And now your communities just crumble around you. Your communities are in peril. I sit here and watch these social medias, man. It is in peril. These black women do not respect y'all. I mean, y'all have lost, you don't even have, you're a ship without a rudder. You're just floating. Whichever way the wind blows, you just go with it. However the tide moves, you just go with it. That spirit has crept in and has taken over. And once again, you don't see this in Hebrew Israelite communities, because we do what Yeshua did, or Jesus. We stand on scripture. We don't compromise. We do not play with that unclean spirit. When them spirits come in, that's why those spirits don't come searching for us or hunting us or come checking for us. Because the first thing we're going to do is say, is it not written? That's what we're going to say. Is it not written? We don't sit and say, well, we can have a conversation about this. What is there to conversate about? If you are guided by it via the Spirit, you're going to stand on what the scriptures demand you stand on. There's no compromise. There's no conversation to be had. And y'all have conversed with these unclean spirits. You've allowed these unclean spirits in, and now it's wreaking havoc in your community. Your women are so completely and totally out of control that it's alarming. You will never have that in Hebrew Israelite communities, because we're a cult. You'll never have it. You'll never see it. You'll never see an all-woman congregation. They'll hell no. Because women know their place, because they go to the scriptures, they know their positions in the community, and they follow what Yahweh has declared they should follow. You don't have all women communities. That's out of line. That's out of line, because now you got pastors declaring that it's the time of the woman and that the black women need to come to the front and this and this and that. That is an absolute slap in regard to the order that Yahweh has declared. The scriptures say it's Yahweh, it's the Messiah, it's the man, it's the woman, and then it's the child. And once again, because you have compromised and had these conversations, now you're perverting his order. Now you're trying to push these black women in the front. You have perverted the order, and you're perverting the order. You continue to pervert everything the scripture says. You're not standing on it. As soon as them women brought that whole homosexual, homophobic crap to you, I sat and watched T.D. Jakes one day when they asked him about it. He, big old fat, and we are not homophobic in the black church, and you sat and you had these conversations. And that's the thing. You're having these conversations with these unclean spirits, and that's what's happening to you. But man, I'm going to go cut out right now because these stores are getting ready to open. I'm going to jump to this. Just wanted to share this, break a little bread with y'all this morning. But if you haven't already, like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, tell a friend to tell a friend. Boomer's Logic, and I'll be back at you again.